It was a bitterly cold night, just before the clock struck midnight. The city's streets lay quiet, swallowed by the hush of winter's grip. Barron Trump sat alone on the cold, worn stone steps of an ancient church, a place that had long been forgotten by the bustling world around it. His breath hung heavy in the frosty air, misting softly like fleeting prayers in the night. Inside, through the stained glass windows, the faint flicker of candlelight painted colorful, trembling shadows across the dim sanctuary, a sanctuary that held secrets and stories no one seemed eager to remember. Lost deep in thought, Barron barely noticed the figure approaching him until the man was nearly beside him. An elderly stranger, with threadbare clothes and a knit cap pulled low over his graying hair, shuffled slowly but with a purposeful calm. His eyes, though tired, held an unshakable serenity, as if they had seen both the depths of despair and the heights of grace. The man paused and smiled gently, a kindness that seemed to glow against the night's chill. "May I sit with you?" he asked softly, his voice like the crackle of dry leaves in a quiet forest. Barron hesitated for a heartbeat, then nodded, moving aside to make room. "It's a cold night to be out alone," Barron replied, his voice steady but tinged with curiosity. The old man settled beside him and exhaled slowly, as if releasing a lifetime of burdens. "You know," he began, "sometimes the cold teaches us more about warmth than any fire ever could. It strips away the distractions and leaves us face to face with what truly matters." Barron's gaze drifted to the glowing church doors behind them. "Why are you here so late? This church, it's usually locked after dark." A soft chuckle escaped the man's lips. "I've walked many roads in my life, son, some lit with hope, others shadowed by sorrow. This church, it has been my sanctuary in the darkest storms. When all else failed, this place reminded me of God's endless mercy." Barron listened quietly, feeling a strange gravity pull him closer to this mysterious figure. "I used to think faith was something you only needed when you had nowhere else to turn," Barron admitted, his voice low and honest. "But sometimes, even when you try to hold on to it, faith feels fragile, like it might slip through your fingers." The man nodded slowly, eyes reflecting a flicker of candlelight. "Faith isn't merely a safety net, son. It's the silent whisper that rises when the world is shouting its doubts. It's the hand reaching out in the dark, even when you question if it's really there." Barron's eyes searched the man's face, seeking a glimpse of certainty. "But how do you keep believing when everything seems lost, when the prayers go unanswered and the nights grow colder?" he asked, his voice barely more than a whisper, as if afraid the night might swallow his doubts whole. The man's gaze turned toward the church steeple, silhouetted against the night sky. "It's in those moments, son," he replied slowly, "that we must remember the words of the psalmist. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." Faith is not the absence of fear, but the courage to walk forward, knowing you are never truly alone. Barron felt the weight of those words settle deep within his soul. This chance encounter on the church steps was more than coincidence, it was a crossroads. The night had just begun to reveal its hidden lessons. The man looked upward toward the cross that hung inside the church's entrance, barely visible through the frosted glass. Because the cross isn't just a symbol of suffering, it's the promise of new beginnings. "Every night, no matter how dark, the dawn is waiting," he answered firmly. Barron absorbed the words, feeling the weight of their meaning settle deep inside. The cold night seemed less biting now, and a new warmth began to flicker inside him. As the night deepened, the flickering candlelight inside the church seemed to pulse like a quiet heartbeat. Barron and the old man remained seated on the steps, their breaths mingling with the chilly air. The man shifted slightly and spoke again. "You see, faith often starts as a small seed planted in the heart during childhood. For me, it was my mother's prayers that kept that seed alive, even when life tore everything else away," he explained, his voice carrying a mixture of sorrow and hope. Barron nodded slowly, recalling moments from his own childhood. "I remember the times when I sat with the priest at church. He always told me that God's love is patient and relentless. But sometimes it's hard to believe that love when the world feels so cruel," Barron admitted, his eyes reflecting the inner struggle. That is the true test, the man responded gently. To believe in that love, not just when it's easy, but when it's the hardest thing to do. Forgiveness of others and ourselves is where faith becomes real. It's easy to hold on to anger, but only the brave let it go. Barron looked down at his hands, the weight of those words sinking in. I've made mistakes, he confessed. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be worthy of forgiveness, not just from others, but from myself. The man smiled kindly. That's the thing about grace, son. It's not about being perfect. It's about knowing you are loved unconditionally, even when you falter. God's mercy isn't earned, it's given freely. Holding on to that truth changes everything. A silence fell between them, filled only by the distant tolling of a bell. Barron finally spoke. How do I find the strength to keep moving forward, to stay hopeful when everything feels uncertain? The man's eyes twinkled with quiet certainty. Prayer is not just asking for help, it's opening your heart and listening for God's answer, even when it's not what you expect. Faith isn't blind, it's courageous. It's the choice to trust the light beyond the darkness. Barron absorbed every word, feeling the fragile but growing flame of faith kindle inside him. Thank you, he said softly. I think I needed to hear that more than I realized. The old man nodded, his expression warm yet knowing. We all need reminders. Sometimes they come from the most unexpected places. The night grew colder, and the shadows inside the church deepened, but Barron felt an unexpected warmth blossoming within. He turned to the old man, curiosity finally breaking through the calmness. May I ask, Barron began cautiously, what brought you here to this church tonight? Ned and Berta? Ned and Shimdi? He Sordu. The man's eyes grew distant, like they were peering through years of memory. I've walked many roads, son. Lost my family in a fire long ago, and since then, I've carried a heavy burden, one I thought would break me. He Achiklada. This church was where I found the first glimmer of peace after that tragedy. It's been my refuge, even when the world turned its back. Barron listened intently, feeling the weight of the man's pain. That's why you sit here alone every night, he Sordu. Not just to sit, the man replied, but to remind myself that even in the darkest moments, God's light never truly leaves us. I come here to remember hope. Barron felt a lump in his throat. I wish I could stay with you. Maybe the two of us could carry that hope together. He Deddy. The old man smiled sadly but kindly. Sometimes the greatest help we can offer isn't staying by someone's side forever. It's lighting a candle to show them the way, then letting them walk their path. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small, simple wooden cross. Take this, he said, handing it to Barron. It's more than a symbol. It's a reminder to carry faith, love, and forgiveness wherever you go. Barron grasped the cross, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. The man stood slowly, preparing to leave. Remember, the man said softly, no matter how lost you feel, you are never truly alone. God's grace is always within reach. As the old man disappeared into the darkened streets, Barron sat quietly, reflecting on the night's lessons. The cold no longer bothered him. For the first time in a long time, hope felt real. That night was not just another cold evening for Barron, it became a turning point, a moment where the weight of loneliness began to lift. The mysterious homeless man had shared more than stories. He had offered a living testament to faith, resilience, and the power of forgiveness. Barron realized that true strength does not come from wealth, status, or technology, but from the grace that resides deep within the human heart. The simple wooden cross he now held was a symbol of a profound truth, that even in the darkest hours, hope can be rekindled, and love can heal the deepest wounds. The conversation had ignited something inside Barron, a seed of faith and compassion that would grow far beyond that quiet church on a freezing night in Manhattan. In the end, Barron understood that sometimes the most unexpected encounters teach us the greatest lessons. Faith is not a destination, but a journey, often beginning in moments of silence and stillness, where God's presence quietly waits to be found. As the city slept, Barron's heart awakened, and in that awakening, he found a light that no darkness could ever extinguish. Let's keep the conversation going. Subscribe, share, and drop your thoughts below. Your perspective is valuable and might inspire others.